Matty Johns, thanks to New Tech. Matthew, good afternoon to you.
Hello, Joel and everyone there at the run home. Great to be here. I apologise I'm running late. I was coming back from the city and there was a wee accident. And as you know, in Sydney, a bit of rain, an accident, you could be there for 3 days.
Hang on. Now, Matthew, just hold the... I can hear some rustling going. What's going on in the background there?
You're going to pork a Russ?
He's not going to pork a Ross. Okay, Ross, he's going to pork her. One of the great films. Couple of the old teammates are here.
Oh, please tell me it's Adam Muir. Please tell me it's Hertzy.
Nah, not Hertzy. But he's top of the agenda. We've got our mate Crowie here.
Oh, one of the greats.
So, yeah, one of the greats, Crowie. So they're upstairs, actually, Crowie and my two boys, including Cooper, who set the date up with Adam Muir and Jackie O.
Okay, now.
They went to the first ever date. Their first date, they went to the Clovelly, and guess who they ran into there? The Eighth Immortal.
Oh!
He was just running off passes off Joey there.
Do you feel that this has got the making of a relationship that can sustain paparazzi and the interest of particularly the eastern suburbs, because we're quite nosy in the eastern suburbs. Do you feel that this relationship can rise above all this?
Well, I reckon 8 Foot Adam hopes so.
Yeah. 8 Foot Adam.
That's what we nicknamed him. You used to call him 8 Foot Adam. He'd have 2 or 3 beers, and if the southerly hit, they just hop under his lats and he'd just hover above all.
He just goes like that.
Mate,
like he's a levitator.
So, I don't know. They had a second date. They haven't given the update. Mate, I keep bumping Coop saying, tell me, give me the inside. He won't do it.
Because you're usually you're not really, you don't like the salacious stuff. I, on the other hand, are frothing on. But I can see you've got a bit of a spring in your step about this.
Well, I mean, to have Jackie O as part of the greater Newcastle Knights community, wow, what a coup for Old Boys Day.
Well, do you feel that if this does succeed, do you feel that Hertzy may have to come down to the east, or do you feel Jackie O might have had enough of the east and go up to
maybe they'll settle at Gosford. Maybe they'll split.
Oh, yeah.
Tukli. There you go. Tukli. I don't know. But I must say, the paparazzi shots, she was sort of nonplussed, and Hertzy sort of had the chest puffed out.
8 foot.
8 foot.
Exactly. He did. He was hovering above all things Clovelly.
If you went back in the day, Matty, and you had to nominate a socialite, if that's what he's to the bucket which he may be ticking at the moment, would you have nominated him as a socialite?
Potentially.
Yeah.
See, so Newcastle's just a microcosm of Sydney, or a smaller version of Sydney, and every area in Newcastle and around the Lake Macquarie have their own identity. So at Cessnock, we'll just, Fletcher Sharp, we're sort of that sort of mullet sort of brigade, a little rough around the edges. Then you move to different places like Merriweather, who are the hoi polloi. And then you moved out to like the Lake Macquarie, around the Belmont area where Hertzy's from, and the Chief was from there and that. And I always found they always wear Lacoste chinos and boat shoes, because it's known Belmont as the home of the 16-footers sailing club. So they always adopted that. Yes.
I also have a theory that early in the days, like early 90s, Merriweather, you blokes, big on those chains around your neck, like a choker chain, but in coral. Those,
yes.
You know those ones?
Yeah.
That was so rank. They were
the Newcastle surfy look in the 80s into the 90s was very shark tooth coral around the neck.
Now, Matthew, let's talk about Origin. Laurie's picked the same 17. I suppose maybe were you surprised at that, or you just thought we almost got him towards the end?
Do you know what, Fletch? When you actually, start to know Laurie more and more, him being loyal to Stefano and some of the other guys doesn't surprise you. And I thought Keon might have came in, but the fact they picked Stefano again, you know what? I like it. I hate the fact that oftentimes you get young players, and I know he's 25, but he's still a young player. When they come into Origin and they don't have a big impact. Granted, he didn't have much of an opportunity. They get dropped straight away, and you just lose them forever then.
Yep.
So they lose faith in the coach and trust in the system. So I'm glad he kept the same side. And to be honest, there was no single individual that would cost us in game 2. It was our ill discipline. it was the fact that Nathan wasn't 100% fit and couldn't do his array of kicking and dominate and apply pressure with his kicking, more than just one person. So I'm glad Laurie hasn't changed anything.
We're kind of all thinking Reece Walsh would get that number one jumper. 18th man. Did that shock you, Matty?
Wow. Well, it was. I thought that Billy would put him in simply because if you look at both men, who's in better form? Obviously the Hammer. But Billy's expressed his admiration for Reece over the years, numerous times. Probably sees a bit of himself in Reece. But the big one was the very fact that if you're going to move the Hammer to fullback, you've got to find another centre. And I was like, well, it's the one position in Queensland that they're short of depth. Given the fact, Robert Toyer has only after a handful of first NRL games has been pushed in there. And so I thought, Reece will be the bloke, but he's gone for Gehamat Shibasaki, and well done to Gehamat. So he made his debut, Gehamat, in 2018. Since then, he's made 45 NRL appearances. He's been Broncos, Knights, Japanese rugby, Cowboys, most of that time Townsville Blackhawks, South Sydney for a very short stint, back to the Broncos. And at every place he's been, he's only played a handful of games at most. And so for him to actually have the season he's having, and it's amazing because Madge has had, he gets his fair share of critics, but, as far as their hard training is concerned, hard off-season, but, mate, the proof's in the pudding with Shibasaki. So it's a great story. It's a feel-good story. Good lesson for young players. Got to persevere and work hard. But it's a massive gamble from Billy.
Tell you what, Brian, both great stories, Bobby Toyer and him, but so different. The stories where Bobby Toyer got it straight away. Seven NRL games or something like that. Gehamat, as Matty's just described, he's had to go around it's amazing, isn't it?
I spoke to my young bloke Jack, and I said, did you play with Shibasaki? And he said, yeah, I played with him. He said, played lower grades together, and he said, I said, did you get a look in? He said, not really. He said, in fact, the Knights thought so little of him when they had to go into lockdown and nominate a certain amount of players. They didn't even take him.
Wow.
And so he's come a long way. He's apparently an outstanding junior, but yeah.
We spoke to Madge, Heine and I spoke to Madge, and he was saying, well, he trained so hard in the off-season, and as you alluded to, Matty, Madge loves all that stuff. Yep. He said, I had to pick him in game one. Yep. And he was saying that he'd heard prior to this, training probably wasn't on the top of his list. This was Gehamat. And maybe he just thought, well, this is last chance saloon. I'm on a train and trial. Yeah. He was a gun kid, and this is what we were talking about, how sometimes gun kids get it so easy they don't have to work hard, and now he's probably realised that, well, I got the talent. Maybe if I combine the two with a good work ethic, look what happens.
Fletch, I agree with all of that, and I'll add another thing in as well, is that Gehamat came into the Broncos, sort of went into his NRL and started to play during the era then the Broncos were just horrible, the lowest ebb of the club's history, all that stuff that went on, and the bloke who came through at the same time, who was as highly regarded, was Tom Dearden. And they endured all those terrible times at the Broncos, the criticism, the floggings, the wooden spoon, all those things. And from the Dearden perspective, after Dearden moved to North Queensland, had that outstanding first year, at the start of the next season, I interviewed Todd Payton, and I said, just a question. I said, Tommy Dearden was fantastic, for you blokes. I said, but how was he when he turned up at Townsville from the Broncos? And he said he was a nervous wreck. He said, mate, you could barely talk to him. He said, you had to treat him with kid gloves. He said he'd chew his nails. He said he was so anxious. And he said that whole experience, what it did to him. It might have been the same with Shibasaki. Yeah. It might have scarred him so bad that it's taken him a long time to recover from. Wouldn't surprise me.
How many kids you reckon? I sort of thought about this during the week, Nico Hines, Dally M, after, he was all over Queensland, and, Cody Walker, Cliffy Lyons, Gehamat Shibasaki now. I think kids are conditioned to, if you don't make it by 20, you're sort of done. Yeah. I reckon if most kids just said, okay, you know what, if I just rip into 24, then I'll truly know whether it's supposed to be for me or not, because so many kids would have bailed out.
So many clubs. A lot of clubs
Yeah.
bail out.
James Maloney.
Yes. They say,
spot on.
They say, well, he's not going to make it.
Yeah.
I've told you this, and I'm going to say it again. The male human brain doesn't fully form until you're 23.
So just
Fletch.
keep ripping on to 24, I reckon.
Boys, it's so true. And Fletch, you're right. Joel, you're right. And so are you, Fletch.
Everyone's
In fact, the
right
clubs
today. We're
give
all
up.
right,
Everyone's
Matty.
right. Guys, we're right.
Correct me if I'm right.
What you said earlier, I'll never repeat, but in a lot of ways you're right. Brooksy, same to you. I asked Brooksy about the bear.
Oh,
And,
yes.
we'll talk about that in a second.
Right,
I'll
we
just
will.
give Brooksy time to get in the studio. Radio sensibilities. But spot on in the fact that clubs give up on these kids. And, like, even to a certain extent, like back in the day, some people just mature, particularly in the complex positions later. And, Gavin Miller, who I put in the top 5 ball players of all time.
Wow.
He was at West, did okay, went to East, did okay the first year, but then found himself on the bench for reserve grade, saw no future, and went and spent 2 years over at Hull Kingston Rovers and come back a genius.
Hey,
Totally different player.
Matty, speaking about Gavin Miller and Hertzie, can you tell that story about reserve grade when you played against?
Yeah. So Gavin, Group 1, was playing in a Group 2, we're playing reserve grade. We had a really young reserve grade side. And we're playing the Sharks at Sharp Park, and our reserve grade, we're about second on the ladder. We're going really, really good. Sharks not so good. Anyway, Arthur Beetson brought Gavin through reserve grade, and you could just see he didn't want to be there. And mate, he was blowing up all the time and whinging about the service, and he was just filthy. Anyway, he was having a stinker of a day, and we get about halfway through the second half, and we're leading 28-6. And Hertzie says to him, Hertzie's in the Jackie O. Hertzie says to him,
8 foot.
hey, listen, I think it's probably time to give it away, old fella. Well, mate, for the next 20 minutes, he just put on a clinic. I've never seen anything like it. Like switching hands, reverse flick passes. Anyway, they beat us on the bell, 30-28. We walked into the sheds, and remember the coach, Robert Finch, just goes, well, what happened there? Anyway, one of the blokes said, mate, Hertzie.
Solid team.
Yeah, mate, Hertzie wouldn't believe it. Hertzie's that. And Finch just going, yeah, well done, mate. You don't bag legends.
He and he can fight too. I've heard stories when he ran pubs in Goulburn. If you played up,
Hertzie?
Gavin Miller.
Gavin, yeah.
They reckon
Gavin, mate.
thrashing
He
machine.
put about. He had a pub at Goulburn, and they reckon there was a certain episode he put about 5 blokes through the window.
Yeah, and
Did
he
he
can
win
really
2
fight.
DLMs?
He won it.
Rothmans.
He tied it with Mark Sargent in '89, and he may have won it again. He might. It was '89. Don't know. He might have doubled up in '90. I'm not sure. But I'll tell you another one about him where I saw him where, mate, he was perilously close to going off. So we're at Newcastle. There was a sportsman's lunch at Newcastle, right? And it was like a lunchtime sort of show. Anyway, we go to another pub afterwards. And mate, I'm young. It's about 1991, let's say. And I'm sort of standing there just going, mate. And all the locals are standing there, and it's Cliffy Lyons versus Gavin Miller. They're playing pool, and Arthur is just standing there, watching them. Obviously, great admiration for both of them, Coach Gavin. And so anyway, Gavin says to Cliffy, $100 on the next game. Cliffy goes, yep, no worries. So they're playing, and it's tooth and nail. It gets down to the black ball. Anyway, Gavin wins. And then Cliffy walks to the corner and just stands there. And Gavin goes, mate, hey, Cliffy, you owe me 100. And Cliffy just is ignoring him. And anyway, Gavin, you can see the tension's just building. And I'm thinking, I'm about to see something here. Anyway, Arthur just walked up to Cliffy and reached into his pocket, pulled his wallet out, pulled the $100 out and gave it to Gavin and said, Cliff, you don't want what was coming.
Oh.
Well, I saw Arthur and Terry Hermanson nearly come to blows.
Arthur?
It was one of the most scariest. They were playing cards on the plane. We were going over to New Zealand, and Arthur was like this.
Yeah.
Arthur was our scout, and Hermo was there.
Great calves.
Gus, yeah, and they were playing.
Awesome.
And I think Hermo said something like to Arthur, because Arthur loved playing cards and was terrific at it. Didn't call him a cheat, but maybe they were playing euchre and he might have said you're reneging or something like that. Anyway, holy hell.
Really?
They just got... Now, Arthur would have been 60 maybe at the time. And when he stood up, Hermo then just went, oh, this is fair.
Backed off.
And I was like a young kid just going, oh, imagine if a stink happens on this plane.
Well, apparently he could really stoush Arthur.
Oh,
On a different note, Fletch, I know Brooksy's in the studio now.
Yes, here he is.
Just got in.
Brooksy, Bear Series 4.
Yes.
I was excited when I heard about it, but I'm hearing that it might be a little weak.
Don't say
It's if you've got through the first three, Matty, I think it's worth persevering.
Ah, that's a shame.
It's cozy.
Yeah.
All the characters
I don't want cozy.
that you've come to love.
This is why sometimes you can't go on
Good
too
cameos.
long. Sometimes two and
I
done.
know.
I just loved the first series, how the whole focus was on... trying to think of his name, the actor who's going to play Bruce Springsteen.
Oh, John...
Jeremy Allen White.
Yeah, Mikey.
Yeah.
Mikey.
Yep.
Carmen.
Yeah, Carmen and cousin. I like that. I suppose as males that appeals to us. You know, we sort of recognise certain things. I love that one. The second and third series sort of started to deviate away from the other characters, and I thought it suffered because of it.
A bit like Mobland 2. Mobland 2 is going to have to really aim up. And our man, Tom, I think they need
I saw Tom...
Yeah.
Tom interviewed the other day, Fletch, and they asked him, "Are you watching anything at the moment?" And he said, "No, but I can't wait for Bear Series 4." So there we go. We've got something in common.
I tell you
we
what,
can win him back.
Yeah, Tom Hardy, big fan of Dylan Alcott. Did not know this. Loves him.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
Loves Dylan Alcott.
Man.
Loves his ANZ ads.
Does he
Mate,
now?
Yeah.
I tell you,
You know, he sticks his tongue out and goes,
I tell you what. I tell you what about Dylan Alcott, right? With Dylan, I get there, and he seems like a terrific little fella, but, you know, like sometimes I just go, I don't know, But I've heard some stories recently about Dylan, and my admiration for him and his lifestyle have just gone through the roof.
Shout out to you, Stu Laundy, who'd be listening.
Yeah, I love the stories. Apparently, he's a pretty decent pisshead. And he really has a good time. Which I go, you know what? I reckon we should maybe make an appointment.
Yeah.
If you're interested, fellas.
Could we get him on the show, Matty? Would he?
Oh, yeah.
We'll bump
I think
Hindy
that-
off. Hindy's
yeah,
gone, and we'll put Dylan Alcott.
Too easy.
Although, no, but Fletch, we can't get rid of Hindy. We need the negativity.
We do.
We do. We desperately need
boys.
the negativity.
Hey, boys, we're done. This is the show done and dusted. Matthew, thank you so much for New Tech.
Fellas, sorry to be late, but
No, it's fine.
always good to talk
Give
to
our
you,
regards
fellas.
to the Crow Man.
I will do, fellas.
And today joined by Daily Telegraph crime editor, Mark Morri, the Monster. Welcome back to the run home. How are you, Moz?
No, not too bad.
Hey, you're looking fit.
Oh, well, put on a couple of pound.
Really?
Yeah.
I think you look good.
Now, Moz, I've got a bone to pick with you. When we signed you on an exclusive deal. Then none of this loaning out. And all of a sudden, Hindmarsh has stolen you and you've gone on to that show and done exactly the same thing. You're ours. We didn't give you permission.
I had one lunch at Mr. Wong's. You call that a binding contract?
That's a binding.
That's
That
binding.
is a binding contract.
Although it was worth it to see Buzz Rothfield having his chicken corn soup.
Yeah.
And then it turned out to be garlic sauce.
Garlic butter.
Garlic butter.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Really?
Buzz was just hoeing into it.
Was he?
Yeah, it was just a side dish.
Oh, really?
And we're having the prawns and Moz is getting in and we go, where's that garlic sauce? And Buzz is just staring off into the ether, just still. And he goes, I said, Buzz, what are you doing? He goes, oh, this sweet corn and crab meat soup is delicious. I said, mate, that's garlic sauce.
Mate, he was banned from the bedroom for about nearly a week. He
Would
said
be.
it just came out of his
Yeah,
pores for
I
weeks.
know.
Buzz has always had a bit of a smell about him.
Circle back. Hindmarsh. What's happened?
Oh,
He went on the Hindmarsh show, him and Anthony Maroon.
On a Tuesday?
Was it a Tuesday?
I don't know. I've got so many commitments.
I've seen you wearing. You've walked in here. So, listener, he's walked in here supporting the Wallabies with a what looks like a beer mat,
So,
but it's a scarf.
yeah, from John Eel's memorial dinner, dinner.
He's still alive, isn't he?
Yeah, 2001. That's how long ago. Probably since the last time I went to a rugby match.
Probably
What's
the
his
last time we
nickname,
won.
It was
Moz?
probably the last
What's
time.
his nickname?
I don't know.
You should know, Brian.
Yeah.
What's his nickname?
Nobody,
Why?
because nobody's perfect.
My brother wanted him to be captain of Australia.
Who?
John Eales, because he said he could do everything.
Yeah.
Remember, like he caught that goal as they were going to make the field goal.
Yeah.
And he stopped
yes.
He said, captain of everything.
Everything.
The cricket team,
Yeah.
the parliament, everything.
He was quite a handy cricketer.
Yeah.
Very handy cricketer.
Really?
Yeah, got behind, elbow up, got behind the bat.
Yep. Okay, now you're the captain today of our True Crime Tuesday, Moz, and we're talking about the road to war, uncovering the genesis of Sydney's gangland war. It's a 3-part video documentary. The first episode published last Monday. Episode 3 is out now. You can get that through the Daily Telegraph. Is that right?
Through the website with
Yep.
those .com things.
Yep, .com things. For those who don't know anything about this story, the bullet points are what?
Well, the Darwich-Razak War
Yep.
started in 2001. Now, that was the first time we saw Middle Eastern feud out on the streets, right? Everyone goes how bad it is here today. These guys had stolen a rocket launcher, right? They bought some stolen rocket launchers, right?
Wow.
They were going to use that. Now, in this series, we actually, first time, the police kind of revealed that they found some intelligence that they were going to use it on them if they were going to be arrested. I don't think people know how bad it was.
Gee
Back
whiz.
in 2000. I spoke to another cop who he said, mate, there were no-go streets. There were streets our young guys were too scared to walk down.
Really?
He said, we had to take it back. I said, what do you mean? He said, well, I selected a few certain policemen I knew were quite very good at their job, and we sent them down this street
Oh,
to do exit.
geez.
He said, there was a bit of carnage.
What suburb are we talking?
Auburn.
Auburn.
Union,
Okay.
Union Street, Auburn. And he basically said, we had to go down and show them who's boss. And he said, you probably couldn't do it today. There'd be such an outcry. And he said, even back then, there was a bit. So that's how bad it was that, the Middle Eastern gangs get around young cops and intimidate them.
Yep.
And it was, it was really, really bad. So this war, that was one of the very first wars. They were shooting people at service
Gee
stations,
whiz.
outside restaurants, leaving them in the streets, which we hadn't really seen. The old guy's a netty. He was in the back of the head at midnight or last seen drinking at a certain hotel
Yep.
and find his bones 15 years later on Foreshore Drive.
Wow.
But these guys, it was open warfare, shootout in a car park of a pub. It was pretty bad. So we did that one first.
So are these families still active in the
No, the Darwich
crime? Are they they haven't passed it on to the next generation?
Well, they're gone now.
Right.
They all got put in jail or killed each other. And then the next one we do is the Brothers for Life, who had its genesis from Bassam Hamzy, one of the most notorious inmates, and this was pretty wild as well. And there was a guy called Farhad Kwame, who he was a Blacktown chapter, and then there was Hamzy's cousin, who was the Bankstown chapter, and they went to war and likewise started shooting the hell out of each other. And there were murders and everything. But interestingly, with that, besides all the murders and the mayhem, the two of the wildest parts of the story, one I kept secret for a long time, they eventually, two Kwame brothers, went to court. They were charged with multiple murders, shooting people, all that sort of stuff. And two female jurors there was interaction between them.
How does that happen?
Well, yeah, you go there, they're sitting there, and one of them said, oh, he's looking at me, he's smiling at me. And then there was all sorts of interplay, like just, facial sort of things, to the point where the cops on the case and even the prosecutor thought, this is a little bit, there's
They
something.
picked up on it.
They picked up on
So
it.
did they know each other prior?
No, of course not.
Definitely not.
No. So the judge eventually kicked them off the jury, discharged them because there was the danger of bias. But which we reveal, and a police officer's actually on record saying, we were monitoring. They weren't monitoring the prison phone calls. They get them all the time. All prison conversations are recorded on phones. These two women kept their relationships going.
Wow.
And eventually had some sort of kind of marriage, not like a very formal, but they ended up
While the Kwames are in jail.
jail, yeah.
Oh.
And so they were talking to them, visiting them, all that sort of stuff.
Was
It's crazy. Just I've never heard of it. And lawyers, I spoke to
Wow.
a couple of lawyers, and they go, mate, 40 years, 50 years in this, I've never heard of.
Were they
jurors."
charismatic kind of guys, or?
Well, a lot of these crooks really are. They're quite, in fact, Little Crazy, he's called.
Which one?
This is another one. Sorry.
Oh, not Kwames.
No, they tried to kill Little Crazy, but missed and got his cousin and killed him instead. They buggered things up. Anyway, Little Crazy, I was speaking to a copper and I said, what's he like? And he said, he said, he's actually quite charismatic, quite interesting to talk to. He said, I know they're ruthless, but a lot of these guys are. a lot of them are very charismatic, you know.
Moz, why have we gone back to 2000? Are you just setting the scene for what's happening currently?
We thought, I just got sick of listening to Josh Hanrahan going, gee, it's bad out there. And going, mate, they don't have rocket launchers.
Yeah, I know.
Right? And the shootings in a 3-month period, there would have been over 100 public place shootings out in the southwest with the Brothers for Life. And then we go on to the Ahmed Elmir War,
Right.
which was 2016, after they locked up Brothers for Life. And you've got to remember, actually, somebody tried to knock him as he pulled into Rose Bay Wharf.
Was that the New Year's Eve thing?
Yeah, the New Year's Day.
New Year's
that
Day.
had every of the best crook in town was on that. It was a farewell for our Adam Freeman, son of George, who was, the farewell was because he wasn't going overseas, he was going inside.
Right.
Right.
And so somebody tried to knock Farhad as he got off. Interesting, like I know there was a bikie there, a Hell's Angel there, and I was talking to him later, and he said, "Oh mate, it was so bad. The media turned up, and you know we had all these girls getting off. My wife thought it was just blokes on there.
So he's more worried about.
He was more worried. Like, somebody sprayed 18 bullets at him, but he's more worried about
18?
18, yeah, and only got him in the shoulder.
Oh, wow.
So Moz, you said this has been going for 25 years. Are they all connected to the same families?
Yeah.
Because we saw Greenacre last week. They said this guy got shot and it was the wrong house. There was no one at the home. Or
Yeah, that happens. And
is this the same?
A
And is
lot
it
of-
all over drug? Is it all drug related?
it's all drug related, but then turns into a blood feud, especially the Darwiches and the Razaks. And then, you know, they were dealing a lot of drugs, and then you had the Hamsies were starting to run things, right? They took over from that. Brothers for Life were Hamsey. The Alameddine Hamsey War. One of the guys that was on that boat, he was part of the Elmir crew, right, which ended up in a war with the Ahmeds, which was the first time we actually saw a really bad public execution. So this war started, there was a blue, they'd kidnapped somebody, and there were drug rips anyway. They all had a meeting to negotiate it at Condell Park smash repair.
Wow.
Things got out of hand. Somebody got shot dead, Sabaji. Anyway, 3 weeks later, Wally Ahmed, who is a major character in the Sydney underworld back then, big, imposing guy, again, apparently very charismatic, sitting there having coffee at rooftop coffee shop at Bankstown. Guy turns up, the Mercedes turns up, guy gets out and shoots him, like pumps him full of bullets. It's all caught on CCTV. This is the first time we've seen murder on CCTV. Like, none of the old hits in the 80s, 90s, we never saw them. And that was the first one, and he's just left there in the cafe. And now it's commonplace, you know. Half these murders are caught on television, you know, within...
With no attempt to disguise
Oh, no, they were disguised.
Oh, they were.
And another thing that we interesting, you know, a detective who worked on the case who didn't want to be identified, he spoke to us and he said, actually, one of the burnt-out cars, one of the dumped cars, one of the balaclavas we found, you know, was used by the government, and it has female DNA on it. Now, I said, so I got excited thinking...
Female hit lady.
No, it looks like maybe either they played dress-ups or before,
or he just borrowed it.
Or it was a kiss before he, gave him a kiss before he went off to do his shooting. I don't know.
It seems to have gone a little bit quiet, other than that shooting the other day. That no one was
only 2.5 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. We think it's quiet.
Yeah.
No, but so
Yeah.
who are the big players
There was
now
a shooting last night at Penrith.
related to?
Well, we don't know. There's been a couple of things going on that we haven't heard about. There were some people shot at Narellan who. It looks like they were just going to go, people that go around collecting rubbish that's left outside.
Yes.
Houses, when there's been a council thing.
Council pick up.
Well, there was a baddie lived in that street, and these people were shot at, who were not baddies. They didn't know whether it was somebody trying to hit them thinking that was the baddie, or it was a baddie thinking someone's come to get him. That's how paranoid it is out there.
Okay, so who are the big players at the moment? Which families? Are they
It's still the
Alameddines?
It's still
and
huge.
Hamsies?
No, the Hamsies are very, very quiet. So it's the Alameddines, and it's called the KVT, which are a young islander group, which is Fijian for warrior. Now, they were doing all the heavy lifting for the Alameddines. They were doing the enforcement, the kidnappings.
So they were in cahoots?
Yeah, well, they were their muscle,
Yeah.
Like these, the Alameddines used to be the Hamsies understudies. And then they said, well, wait a second. And the KVT did all the grunt work, right, for the Alameddines. And now some of them have turned around and went, we can actually do a lot of this on our own.
Gotcha.
So there's been a split.
And when you say on our own,
they want to do their own thing.
and selling drugs.
In opposition, in opposition to them. Yeah.
And the Alameddines are going.
Well,
no.
No.
We still own the area. Do they own areas or do they own the whole state?
They distribute everywhere, right? The Alameddines, the Houches. There'll be big fights mainly over doors, is what they're called, and they are corrupt officials, port officials who help get the drugs in. They're massive.
Right.
They are very valuable.
But they're legit workers?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, and they get in a sling. Right.
They
call them doors.
They call them doors because they're the door into...
Yeah, wow.
So some fights have been over that, like they've tried to pinch the door or offering more.
Oh, right.
So it gets, it's very competitive. It's like radio, you want to have the best talent that can keep doing stuff, and you just offer them more money or more broken legs.
Last time we were speaking to you, it was all about the commission, in inverted commas. Are the commission still kicking?
Hindy wouldn't ask that.
No.
No, you'd want a commission. Not to the extent they were, because coke prices have dropped dramatically because the commission doesn't have the power it did, because there's a family called the Houches. They're in a bit of disarray, right? Their leader, Bill Al's been locked up over in Lebanon. Alameddines are over there. There's some major bikies who've got legal matters, I can't name them, who are all part of the commission. Now, the commission has dropped off. So there are all these little players coming in and just undercutting. So that's why the price of cocaine's dropped. I don't know if you've noticed.
How many kilos of cocaine is there a percentage that you would know? Is it recorded?
Well,
somewhere?
no, you can't. They say there's the wastewater, right?
Yes.
So, which gives an indication, and it keeps going. But it's just they're moving hundreds of kilos a week.
A week. Because
I did read
a
just phenomenal.
I did read a stat saying per capita, Australia and New Zealand are by far the biggest consumers of cocaine.
Really?
Is that because there's so much here because the cartels make so much money on it?
Yeah, well, they target
Are we
us.
all just junkies?
Well, it's a bit of both.
Right.
We're willing to pay,
the markup.
Yeah, huge amounts of money. I don't know why, but we do. And there's, the Mexican cartels, they targeting us.
Yeah.
That's where all the coke comes from. It's all got to come from South America or Mexico.
And then these families are in cahoots with the cartels.
Yep.
Boys, we're going to roll.
Very
we're getting
interesting,
bullied
boys.
again. If you want a true crime, investigate this bloke here, the tourist. He bullies us all the time, Moz. Mate, outstanding again, True Crime Tuesday. 3 episodes. If you want to catch up on that, the Daily Telegraph website is the best way to do so? Or?
That is, And there's a fascinating interview with a guy from Brothers for Life who's been shot at people, and that's also on there too.
Is he out?
Wow.
Is he
He's
out?
out. He's out.
Is he out of Brothers for Life?
He's got a limp.
Oh. Do they have names like in in Casino or
Well,
Goodfellas? Do they have like
there's
Too Tough Tommy?
the
Pete-
Ahmeds, there's Gags, there's Brownie. Yeah, they do some.
They
of
have
them.
those-
Yeah. But the coppers have better nicknames, and a lot of them I'll tell you off air.
Because I'm Tripod.
Yes. Self-anointed.
Obvious reasons.
Self-anointed.
Moz, that's outstanding.
Okay.
Tripod on the horse. Glad to have you, Moz. We thank you so much.
Okay.
Mark Morri,
See you later.
True
Thanks,
Crime
Moz.
Tuesday, Daily Telegraph. He is the main man there when it comes to True Crime Tuesday. Brian, it was last week. It was boom. It was crash. It was opera. It was just all happening. Tootsie, welcome back.
Thanks for having me, boys.
Toots, I thought that was the greatest news I heard until I saw Adam Muir and Jackie O walking together hand in hand in the eastern suburbs. What have you got?
There you go.
Did you know that? Did you know?
No, I didn't. No, I don't get the eastern suburbs news, mate.
No.
Sorry.
No, it's
Who's the biggest socialites in the nation's capital, Brian, would you say?
I don't know. It'd be
Penny Wong?
Penny Wong would be up there.
Yeah.
Jackie Lambie.
Yeah.
Who is it, Toots?
Oh, mate, how would I know? Probably Sticky.
Sticky.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Stick and Kaylee, they'd be
Pretty
quite,
well known.
Yeah, they're
Yeah.
quite regal down there. What about Big Papa getting chosen again? Tootsie, did he knock? What happened there? So a couple of years ago, he said, "I'm retiring from." So is he out of retirement? What's happened?
Well, yeah, I think so. I'm pretty certain he did retire. He just said he'd had enough, and there was young blokes there that were ready to take his spot, and he'd had a big couple of years, the big fella, and probably thought he was getting to the back end of it, and obviously yeah, I guess he retired from there, and then
Right.
it did get thrown around after game one. And he's a sort of bloke, Pupper. He never really gives you a straight answer. He just laughs and jokes, and you never really know if he's serious or not. And then, yeah, I obviously heard the news. I heard once it started coming through Fox Sports and those sorts of people, I thought it's actually probably a thing here. And then, yeah, sure enough, the big fella got called in. He's still in Canberra. He hasn't gone to camp yet. He just runs his own show. He's had a little bub last week, so he's been hanging around home for a couple of days, and I think he leaves tomorrow morning to head up there. So he's yeah, he'll roll up there, and they'll have the red carpet ready for him, no doubt.
Hey, Brian, my mail is Ricky. Sorry, Billy Slater has brought in Josh Papalii for the one reason only. Noah Papalii is going to lead him out. Poor boy. Imagine a little maroon shirt, and out comes Noah Papalii.
Oh, he's an absolute gem.
He's
Noah.
the best.
He wouldn't bat an eyelid either. He'd just run out front of everyone and run the show like he does in Canberra.
The latest addition to to Josh's family and Seppa's family is a boy or girl?
Another boy.
Oh, another boy. What's his name?
Another boy. Jeremiah.
Jeremiah. Okay. In 7 years, Jeremiah's going to be the Mickey.
Was a good friend of mine, Brian.
So Noah will be about 14, will he?
Yeah.
I can see
he's in for a good couple of years, Papa.
I can see these two already TikTok stars.
Yeah.
Are they on TikTok?
Yeah.
He should be.
He should be. Who
knows? He'll have his own page. If Luke Bateman can get on there, then Noah can.
Oh, yes. Yeah. What about that, Toots?
Oh, mate, honestly. Beto, one of my good mates, Beto, but I just can't. I don't know what's going on, to be honest.
So just
everyone messages me all the time. Did you see Beto? I was like, I must have muted him because I don't see him on the ice. I don't see him, mate.
Let everyone know what he's doing. So he was on The Bachelor, was he?
He was on The Bachelor. He was actually. I forgot about that too. He's on The Bachelor and doing those sorts of things. And he can't sit still, Beto. He's out cutting trees down, and now it's. I actually don't really know what it is. Is it?
He's got a book.
Audio books.
Yeah, he's got a book.
Really?
Well, he was on the project, and got announced that he had a couple of book deals, which the project doesn't. I don't think it operates anymore, so it must have worked out well. But, he's got a couple of book deals, but then I think I'm not on TikTok, but the boys were sort of saying that it's just everyone started blowing up about people who have spent all their life trying to get a book, and Beto's come out and got himself two
deals,
books.
yeah.
Oh, wow.
Two deals. But yeah. So I don't know how much further it's gone, mate, to be honest.
No, he's massive. He's massive.
What's the genre, Brian?
He's in the TikTok.
What's his genre?
Doesn't he do something like, is it like love advice or?
Really?
Love fantasy sort of stuff, yeah.
Like
I
romantic novels.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
You know who else was very prolific and has got a massive following is Lockie Lewis.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
He of the stereo tea leafing.
That was still one of the greatest things, wasn't it?
Bird boxes.
He's walking off he's walking off at half time.
And gave Cody the judo chop breakdown. That was so odd.
What was
that's one of the
doing?
strangest stories.
Ethan Strange.
Anyway.
Now we're dilly-dallying around here, Brian, haven't we?
We are.
I kind of feel like we're using the great man.
Well, I know.
It's been good.
The segment's only supposed to go for 2 minutes.
I know.
But we get a lot of juice from the lemon.
Oh, yeah. Just imagine what you could be buying instead. For free and confidential support, visit gamblinghelponline.org.au. What, you're still here? Well, you can see more on the Joel and Fletch socials and catch us live on SEN Radio, you beautiful humans.